everybody, we're here in Belleville Kitchen. It's Wednesday and we are going to be making some cauliflower cheese in the kitchen with Johnny and Stephanie, who I will introduce you to in a minute, and we've got a wee audience behind us here. Say hello guys. Hello. Excellent. Okay, so just one thing we're going to try and do just a wee bit quicker today. We think maybe we've been doing them a wee bit too long, so hopefully we're going to be 30-40 minutes, no more than that today, and you can let us know how we get on with that. And so I am just going to turn you over to Johnny and Stephanie now in the kitchen.
Hello, hiya. So just before we start, this is Stephanie, one of our school placements, volunteer here, so glad to have her back. She's going to be assisting me today. Cauliflower cheese, so you can have a rough look here. Things that you need. Ingredients: we've got roughly 800 grams of cauliflower, a litre of milk, 60 grams of butter, 4 tablespoons of flubber, 20 grams of grated cheese, 2 sachets of mustard, salt and pepper to taste. We'll just quickly go through the method. So you're cutting, flouretting your cauliflower, putting it in a saucepan of water to cook it. Then we are making a roux, which is a thickening agent for a sauce, out of flour and butter. That's steps 3 and 4. And then you're really just combining it and serving it, or you can put it in the oven to finish it off. Dead easy. So that's just roughly what we're doing there. So take a wee moment to show you the one that we prepared earlier. So
isn't it pretty?
There we are. This is the cheese sauce with cauliflower and pasta, so it's a really good way of getting pasta into your diet as well, is to get that through there. I've topped it with some tomatoes and spring onions because they were going in the fridge, they weren't going to last another day, so they're in here. So this has all been cooked, everything in here is cooked and just been combined with the sauce. So I'm going to place this in an oven at about 120 degrees just to reheat it, and it should be done by the time we're done.
Can I just say, mind you, I wasn't here last week, but you were talking about the tryptophan and the serotonin and how we needed carbohydrate to sort of allow our bodies to access that.
Yes.
So putting pasta in with your cauliflower cheese presumably supplies that carbohydrate for you.
Yeah,
so
that'll supply the carbohydrates. So anything really, rice, pasta, preferably brown, because that's even better for you.
Yeah, extra fibre.
Extra fibre. So.
Cool. Okay.
So, wee bit of a change, because we like to make things different. Broccoli instead of cauliflower. So the one that we're doing today, it's exactly the same. Well, it tastes different, but it's the same principle. Cooks fairly similarly. This was tender stream broccoli, so most of the stalks are kind of unusable. We'll use them for something different, so we've just trimmed them off there. If anybody was watching last week talking about all the nutrients in these leaves, we have these in purposely. We'll keep them in there. So just put these in some boiling hot water, which you can see you don't need a lot of. You don't need full pot of water, just enough to cover it, because any parts of the broccoli hanging out the top will steam.
Yeah, so, I would always steam my broccoli by preference.
Yeah, it's easier to overcook it if it's in a rolling boil full of lots of water.
Cauliflower takes a longer time to cook, I think.
Yeah, it does take a bit longer, especially with our broccoli because it's so thin. Probably not take too long. I'll just leave that like that. Shouldn't take too long. So next we'll make a cheese sauce. Stephanie can help me make cheese sauce. Stephanie, if you could go into that fridge, get me a milk out please. Stephanie, you had cauliflower cheese before? No? See, I'll show you what you got. Jugs.
We're not getting any comments yet, folks. Nobody's speaking to us.
Are we online?
We are, yeah.
That's just a wee thing as well, guys. I'm just going to, right up top, maybe just on the top, lightly salt the water in the broccoli. You don't have to, but today, just a wee bit of salt, not too much. And that.
We're getting some likes, no comments yet, so I'm sure it's working. I'm sure you're listening.
Butter. So that's your fat. We're going to melt that down in the pot. Then add the flour. That's a roux. So a roux is basically just a thickening agent for a sauce. Today we are making
guys.
This white sauce, and just the basic white sauce will be your butter, your flour and your milk. Then you can add cheese to that to make it a cheese sauce. Other things you could do with it, you know, maybe a wee bit of a fish stock cube, lots of parsley. You could have a parsley sauce for your fish. Lots of different things that we can do with a white sauce. Very versatile.
We've had lots of people saying hello there, just
Hello.
me complaining nobody was talking to us.
Oh, sorry.
So we've got Diane, we've got Terry, we've got Leslie, we've got Susan. Susan, we miss you so much.
Hello.
We've got Jim, and we've got Michelle. She said she's messaged the page. I won't be able to deal with that query until after the live, Michelle, and I'll have a wee look at that. Thanks. Sorry, Johnny, just got a wee bit distracted there. I remember you telling me about the quantities of fat and flour for a roux, because honestly I just chuck it in the...
Yeah. So it's approximately, most of your recipes will tell you 21 grams of flour to 21 grams of butter will do you approximately a pint.
Okay.
Right. So that's what most of your recipes will tell you. It might be a note to say though, you know, if you don't have that much flour and if you don't have that much butter, if you're wanting to cut down on calories, it is possible to use less roux and just cook it for longer, because as liquid evaporates it will thicken naturally.
Okay.
Similarly, if you're going to finish this off in the oven, you can probably afford to use slightly less roux, make your sauce slightly more watery, because the extra thickening will happen in the oven. So it's only guidelines, and you know, our recipe's not.
Sorry to interrupt, we've got a wee message there just interesting from a Ternan, sorry. He's saying that he works in Fergusley Park, runs a community meal in Fergusley Park, so he would love to learn how to cook better meals. You stick in with us, Terry, it'll be fine.
Yeah, definitely, and maybe Terry we could exchange some information.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
That's part of what Stephanie does here with us, is learn from Johnny in the kitchen. You know, in a few years' time you might find yourself in your own house and running your own kitchen, and this is just, so is this something that you enjoy, this recipe?
Yeah, I've never tasted it before, so it's
Okay.
learn to cook new things and learn to try new things.
Are you excited to try it? Are you willing to try new foods?
Yeah.
That's half the battle, isn't it?
Yeah.
She's not so much got a choice when she's in here on me on a Friday though, does she?
No,
She need to taste everything.
I get out of it because I'm vegan and I don't eat it. So can you just give me a wee second so I just show people how that's coming together? It's quite solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty
Excellent.
solid. Pretty solid. If you're going to weigh it out, you know, it should be roughly the same every time, but you know, I don't always weigh these things.
I eyeball everything, I'm afraid.
Yeah, so do I really. So we're just, it's important to kind of cook it out for a few minutes as well, just shows that the floury taste kind of goes out. If you don't cook the roux out enough, you might be left with a kind of floury texture and taste through your sauce. So it's always good to kind of cook it out for a wee while. Don't let it burn, and a good way of not letting it burn is to constantly stir it. Just waiting on the heat coming up in this pot a wee bit. See how the broccoli's getting on whilst that's going. We can test how done the broccoli is by stabbing a fork into it, exactly. Mainly the stockier part. If we can fit a fork through that easily, which I can't, so it's not cooked yet. It's not cooked yet.
Okay. Well, as you say, we're using broccoli instead of cauliflower today. The recipe boxes that we gave out, and certainly the recipe card, has cauliflower on it.
Yeah.
But there's so many different things that you could use instead. As Johnny's already mentioned, it's cheese sauce. You know, you could be making sort of macaroni cheese, for instance.
Yeah.
but all sorts of different vegetables will go into this. We're looking today at what's known as cruciferous vegetables, or sort of brassicas. And as we said last week, Johnny told you about tryptophan and serotonin and how we can find lots of that in cauliflower. And another thing that we can find in cauliflower is something called choline. And choline is quite a newly discovered mineral. It's not quite a vitamin, and it is essential for healthy brain development. It's involved in memory, sort of development of brain development and long-term memory retention. So it is thought to help in the fight of prevention of Alzheimer's. So that's one of the reasons that we've picked this type of vegetables. It's not just cauliflower and broccoli though. You've got Brussels sprouts, you've got kale, kohlrabi, cabbage. All these sorts of things are really, really high in what we call this choline. Now, pains me to admit it because I am a vegan, but actually it's found in a lot higher quantities in things like chicken liver and beef liver, certain fish like salmon and cod, eggs. But broccoli and cauliflower are known as high sources of this essential.
Somebody tell me, smell it and tell me what you think of the smell. Is there a change in smell? Smell, it's kind of nutty, for lack of a better word. So
is that the flour cooking?
Yeah, that's the flour cooking, and that's when you know we're pretty much done. Won't get too much into roux, but this is what you would call a white roux or a blonde roux, which means it's not cooked out for too long and you've used like nice white flavour because you want to maintain the sauce as a kind of white colour. If you're making something like a stew or something else, you might cook this out for a lot longer and it would go a lot darker. But today we're wanting a nice light flavour and nice light colour, so we'll go with this.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean I can smell that from here. It's definitely different from the smell that we first.
Yeah, so now Stephanie's going to start gradually introducing the milk while we try with, right? So that happens, and that'll freak some people out. That is completely normal. Keep going. That's it. Keep going. Right, so stop there. So this is where you can see that there's a bit of work to be done in terms of combining this now. Right, keep going. So now you can start, every time you add in, you can add a bit more in. So you add a bit more in now. Right, so once I get this incorporated, sometimes it gets caught in a whisk, but shake it out. So you can either add it in really gradually, or you can kind of, like a 10th of your jug, then maybe double that, and then till it gets to the point you can add like half your milk at the end. On you go. So I'll tell you when to stop. Stop. You can use a wooden spoon for this, but I prefer to use a whisk because it's less lumps. Right, you can add the rest of it in there, that's alright.
I have to admit that when all else fails, I have had to put this to a sieve.
Absolutely fine.
And it's worked. So
some of your top restaurants and that probably do that. So yeah. I wouldn't worry about it. Some people would argue that if you had to pass it through a sieve, you may as well bin it. I don't agree with it. Just if you want it completely smooth, you would do absolutely everything to get it smooth. Got it. If I was wanting a completely white sauce, I might use a silicone whisk because this can turn things a wee bit grey.
Okay.
But when by the time we put cheese and stuff like that through it, we won't notice.
So we were talking about the versatility of just this part of the recipe. So what you have here is the basis for a white sauce, or a basis for a bechamel sauce. You could be using that to make yourself lasagna.
Yep. So this on its own, some recipes will tell you to like put half an onion with a bay leaf and a studded clove in it. You don't need to, but this on its own is effectively your lasagna sauce.
Cool.
Adding cheese to it is your cheesy pasta. As I said before, maybe a wee fish stock cube and lots of parsley. That will give you a fish sauce.
Excellent.
Mustard, English mustard. Some people might be, why are you adding this? Well, it tastes good. It's not really for the spice so much. But what is quite interesting is if you look at the ingredients on the back, some of the first ingredients are spirit vinegar, salt and sugar. All things, they're all flavour enhancers. It will make your product taste better. So I don't know, I'm assuming mustard has some kind of health benefits as well.
That will do. I mean, it's from the same plant as it's a cruciferous vegetable, is it not?
Oh, is it?
It must be.
Oh, there you go. Let's see it. Check this broccoli. Still not quite there. Yes, please.
Do you want me to put it on a higher heat?
Yeah. We'll get it thickened up now. So now this part is you're really just trying to thicken it. I'm going to grab another spoon and just keep stirring at it, just to make sure all the lumps are out.
Okay. So we did speak a wee bit about the differences between broccoli and cauliflower. And there's another substance that I am actually just going to go and check that I can. And I'll check how it's written. And it was really quite interesting because we came in this morning. We used broccoli because we've had a lot of it left over from food waste, and we've been trying to use it up in various different things. So there was a broccoli soup cooked yesterday, and when we came in this morning and we opened the fridge up, the pot of soup had cooled down and been left in the fridge, and there was a very distinct smell from it, and that was when I remembered this wonderful fact that I found out, which is that glucosinolate, which is one of the antioxidants that we find in cruciferous vegetables, that's where that smell comes from, and it's quite high in all of the brassicas. And it's just interesting to know that that's exactly what that smell is. It's one of the many antioxidants that you can find in brassica veg, which help our bodies fight, get free radicals out of our bodies, and can be useful in the help against cancer prevention and treatment. So mainly the reason that we were using this type of vegetable was to tell you about the choline content of it and how that's really essential for our diets. It helps in our brain development. It's particularly good in the liver as well. So our bodies do produce a small amount of it in our livers, and one of the first signs of deficiency, I believe, is liver problems. And that's why when you eat beef and chicken liver, then it's got high quantities of it. But most of the choline that we use in our bodies has to be sourced from our diets. And that's why we're showing you how to cook with vegetables that are high in that. Okay, so I think I'm going to kind of send you back to Johnny because he looks like he's doing interesting things and putting things in the pot, and I don't want you to miss it. Okay, so he can...
It was just a little bit of salt and pepper.
Oh well.
Yeah, this is a bit of I want to just say a bit of a habit of mine, seasoning at every stage. So...
Hi John, we're making cauliflower cheese today.
Who can answer me this? Why shouldn't I have seasoned that before I put the cheese in?
Because you've not tasted it, surely. Have you?
I tasted it, I put the salt in, but I've not put the cheese in yet.
Oh, I don't know, you'll need to tell us.
Because cheese is full of salt. If cheese goes into anything, you put your cheese in first, then you taste it for seasoning.
Right. Speaking of the cheese,
oh aye.
You were talking about cheese earlier.
Yeah, so we had enough stuff for like 2 recipes, all but the cheese. I didn't have 2 blocks of cheese. So I could have went out and bought another block of cheese.
Has Kira answered your question correctly?
What?
Kira.
Did you answer that correctly,
She
Kira?
did. Well done, Kira.
Says Kira's up there. Brilliant. Well done.
Hi,
Eh,
Kira.
But I, what was saying?
Oh, I don't know. We've made him lose his plot. We were talking about cheese.
Oh, aye. So I had one kind of lot of cheese.
Aye, Maureen.
And instead of going in and buying another cheese, I've split the one amount of cheese between two recipes. So I'm only using half the cheese today.
Okay.
Which is, you know, for some people's tastes, maybe that's not cheesy enough. For me, I tend to find it's alright, especially by the time. Eh?
I'm just telling Kira we miss her.
Yeah, we do. Look at that. So you can see it's thickened.
Lovely.
It's not the same colour or consistency. And then we'll see some bubbles. There we go. Right, cool.
Oh, John's going on holiday.
John.
Sounds nice. John 30.
Oh. Where are you going?
Says he's going to Silver Sands.
Nice.
Just while we were talking about cheese and cutting it down and everything like that, we do have some health information just on our little recipe card here, and it's telling us how we've got a great source of calcium and protein in cheese, and that it contains high levels of vitamin B12, which is one of my nemesis because being a vegan I don't get B12. However, having too much cheese is really not good for us. It's high in saturated fats, and if we eat too much we can get too high cholesterol levels and we risk our heart health. So portion control on cheese and dairy is really important, and if you can do things like Johnny has done and cut it in half, then
Yeah. Cut it in half. So our sauce is pretty much done here.
Schloss.
Eh?
You said Schloss.
Sauce? Sauce. Sauce. I can't speak properly, sorry. So we'll add this cheese in here, melt it. I'm not sure if the recipe says or not, but sometimes I like to add the cheese off the heat. So there's not really as much danger of it splitting. Because the heat in the pot and the heat in the sauce will be enough. Will be enough to completely melt the cheese. By the time it goes out of the table, the cheese will be melted. So I'm just
that
using.
seems to have melted almost immediately.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much gone.
Yeah, it has.
Right, Stephanie, if you want to stir that for me, just to make sure that it's definitely all out, I'm going to go and
Yeah, you
strain
didn't
the
let
broccoli.
it stick. So have you added anything to compensate taste-wise
For
with
the
the
lack-
reduced cheese?
For the reduced cheese, salt, pepper, mustard.
Okay.
Need to remember as well, people can always season at the table. So
I imagine the one that you've got in the oven as well with the spring onions and the tomatoes, that will be really tasty.
yeah, because I know your onion, yeah, as much as it's a garnish and it looks nice, it'll taste better as well.
I used to make, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just going to say I used to make a friend of mine in school showed me a version of cauliflower cheese which included fried off mushrooms and onions that were mixed through it, and hard boiled eggs that were chopped up and mixed through it,
That sounds nice.
and then breadcrumbs or croutons on the top along with a wee bit of cheese and done under the grill. And that was always a really popular dish. I used to call it Dutch cauliflower cheese because my friend was Dutch.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah, it was.
Right, so we're going to put the broccoli in now.
See you later, John.
Bye, John. There we are.
Excellent. So really what we were saying is that you can use this sauce for any type of vegetables. You could even put some potatoes in there. It might make your dish a little bit stodgy, but it would add you a little bit of carbohydrate. There's lots of vitamins and minerals in potatoes as well.
Lovely.
What else could you imagine going in there?
Oh. Stephanie, what do you think? What would you like to see in there? What would you like to eat in there?
I don't know.
Other things. I think mushrooms would be quite nice. Maybe...
Oh, the layer of tomato. Some people do like a layer of tomato on the bottom, and then they'll layer the cauliflower over the top and sort of roast it in the oven, which is nice as well.
Do you know what would be quite nice? See if you really chopped really small peppers and put them through it as well.
It would look nice.
It would look nice as well. And
It would sound probably
Just
nice.
onions through it, I think would
probably
be good.
I mean, I like peppers with everything, so...
Have a wee sneak at.
That one looks nice.
We'll try...
Whack that up.
Oh, you can smell the spring onions. Right, so Stephanie, will we try this broccoli cheese first?
Yeah.
Try this first, right?
I think I don't really like broccoli, but try it.
Well, you ate a broccoli soup that you made yesterday, so...
It's very good for you, Stephanie. Do you prefer cauliflower?
I've never tasted cauliflower, really. Never
Okay, well, you will be tasting cauliflower when it comes out of the oven, so that's good.
Is it alright?
Excellent.
That's really nice.
And that's only half the cheese. This is the other thing that I wanted to say. So you talk about cutting half the cheese. I think look, if you're doing something like that and you become really conscious of the fact that you've halved something and you think, oh, people are going to notice, they're not.
No.
They're really not going to notice. And then you start to ask yourself, well, what's the point of using so much if you can get away with using less?
I think people often don't try that. Like a lot of cake recipes, you can reduce the sugar in a lot of cake recipes and it just makes no difference. In fact, it makes it nicer. Because sometimes things are too sweet, you can't get any taste out of them.
So there you go, for my taste, a wee bit of salt, but apart from that, it's lovely.
So we're just really hanging around till this guy comes out of the oven. I like to personify everything. Yeah, and I'm just going to have a wee quick check at what our other kind of information is on our recipe. So we've got a little bit about did you know, and really we're just talking there about how much food waste contributes to climate change as it releases methane gas and rots and breaks down. And as I pointed out, the broccoli that we've used here was waste, so we have avoided that going to landfill or being dumped. So there you go, a fifth of the food we waste in the UK is dairy, milk, butter and cheese. And all these things can actually be frozen. And obviously there's guidelines that you need to follow to keep yourself safe when you're doing that. Use it up within a month, defrost it thoroughly, etc. But a lot of people don't realise that milk, butter and cheese can all be frozen and there's really no need to waste them. And we've got a few waste saving tips that just suggest that you make the cheese sauce up and freeze it in portions without putting the cauliflower or pasta or whatever it is that you're putting in it. Okay, so we're saying if you can get some broccoli and veg stock and then add your defrosted sauce into it, maybe a little bit of water, you can actually make a really delicious cheddar and broccoli soup, which is always good for you. And how do you want to have a wee look and see if that's coming out the oven now? And there's also a suggestion here just for what I was talking about with the version with all the mushrooms and the onions, and also doing your croutons on top, which really goes nicely, and it's just that little extra bit of carbohydrate in your meal and a wee bit of taste there. Okay, so we're going to have a look at the oven version. So really you could do either.
Knock myself out of that.
We were going to make a point though about cooking your vegetables, for putting in the oven and cooking your vegetables for just serving.
Yeah, so pretty much it really depends, like, you know, if you were going to put this in a dish, put a layer of cheese on top of it and just whack it under the grill for 5 minutes, just enough to crust the cheese. Then if you imagine serving this in the middle of your table, you probably wouldn't need to adjust things too much. But if you're going to have this in the oven for any length of time, I would recommend half cooking your veg and half cooking your pasta, because the rest of the cooking will happen in the oven.
Excellent.
And a wee bit of cooking can happen whilst it's sitting in this roasting hot dish. And a wee mention as well, work with a girl called Jenny. She's a chef. She ran a kitchen in somewhere, I can't remember where it was, but she gave me this tip. So tomatoes are for decoration and for saving food waste and all, but she used to do this for her girls in the canteen when she done big tray bakes of cauliflower cheese and cheesy pasta to help in portion control. So,
Angela's saying hello.
Hiya, Angela here. I always ask, hello Angela, how are you? Yes, it's also a great way, if portion control is your thing, if you want to learn, if you want to make portion control more manageable for you, your garnish can be a good way, because you know you could, there's a portion, or well, I would say, you know, maybe that's a portion, that's a portion, that's a portion, you know. So we'll
Yeah, I would say there's definitely 4 portions in there, if not a little more. This is actually half the amount that we made, that we have given out on our recipe cards. We used around 400 grams of vegetables, and the recipe cards are actually 800 grams. So we just made half the amount for each kind of type we did.
Hopefully the spring onions should be warm but not cooked, because I wanted them to kind of have a crunch.
Yeah, I think spring onions are particularly nice when they're nice and crunchy. Is that something you enjoy, spring onions? Yeah? What about tomatoes?
I love tomatoes.
Yeah?
Now this will be interesting because I'm not keen on tomatoes. I'm just looking for some pasta in it. So thank you, Stephen. So hopefully you get some pasta in here as well.
It's quite a traditional thing for the top of macaroni cheese, isn't it? Sliced tomatoes. I'm not entirely sure what that is, just goes well. How do you find that?
Alright?
Yeah? So that's the first time you've tried cauliflower? Yeah? What do you think?
It's nice.
Can you see yourself going home, making this at home for the family? Yeah? And do you think everybody will enjoy it? Do you think they'll like it? Yeah?
See, for me, the tomato, nah.
No. That's okay. You're allowed to try things and say, I don't like that. Okay,
Other than
well,
that,
we're not going to keep you much longer, folks. I think we've kept it quite well to the half an hour, so I hope that's all right for everybody. We did post a couple of pictures of the recipes earlier on, but I will take pictures and put them in the comments. If anybody has any other comments, please just keep asking away. We'll them and see if anybody's needing any answers. If you have any suggestions as well for lives that you want us to see, workshops that we can perform here, we were discussing possibly doing one of our wax wrap workshops, and if you've got any other ideas, please do get in contact with us and let us know, because that's the only way we can do what you want if you tell us, okay? So I'm going to give you back to the guys, let them say goodbye, and then we're going to go and we will see you all next week, okay? Just give me 2 seconds, I'll turn the... actually, back on.
Bye.
Bye!
guys, please leave in the comments, try and make it, and let me know how you got on. Ask lots of questions, experiment.
Excellent.
Okay?
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.